What marks do we leave on history, and how will our lives testify that we were here? Those are the words and the questions that we're being challenged to ask by Dr Andile M-Afrika, who is an author, a freedom fighter, and an academic. Today marks the anniversary of Steve Biko's death, a South African anti-apartheid activist who was a leading figure in the Black consciousness movement, who died in police custody in 1977. That's 48 years ago. And as part of its annual tribute to Bantu Biko, Motapa Afrocentric Dialogues is tonight hosting an evening of reflection, reading, and dialogue with the author, Dr Andile M-Afrika. Drawing from his latest work, Touched by Biko, My Battles with Inferiority Complex, Dr M-Afrika reflects on a lifetime dedicated to the Biko project. He joins us right now on the line to understand what he means by Black consciousness in today's time, and of course speaking about the reflections that will be part of tonight's dialogues. Dr M-Afrika, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Sissy, for having me.
Well, let's speak about that challenging question that you're posing to everybody else. What marks do we leave on history, and how will our lives testify that we were here? If we compare this to the times of Bantu Biko and those who were part of that particular revolution, we know today what marks they leave on history. But today it seems like a little bit more of a battle to really understand where we stand in history and in the future.
Of course, yes. What Biko and his generation did to themselves and to us was a future in their own times. Some of us were younger than Biko and all those colleagues of his who were in universities. But today we have a direct claim to their actions, not only through their own writings and thoughts, but also through the physical work that they did, particularly Biko. I come from an area where he grew up. The institutions that he built are still standing there. The offices, the Zanempilo Clinic, which now celebrates 50 years for having been there. The people that were assisted with education, they've become very successful. They are married, they have children, they are professionals. That's the kind of impact that we today need to learn. We need to learn and change our lives into purposeful living. And Biko, it becomes that kind of example.
Well, you've previously written, the biography of Biko as well as a Biko-inspired novel. However, you say that you continue wrestling in your personal journey with Black consciousness and its enduring relevance. What do you mean by that?
In writing, they say you don't choose a topic chooses you. So it continues to pursue you. I have had to do a story of why did I write that novel? Why did I take up somebody up my street who was not looked at in central mind by others? People have been treating him on the side and they would easily forget. They would even, in case, keep on the way he died than the way he lived. So this time around, my latest book is dealing with personal battles on inferiority. Inferiority complex might sound such a big thing done by bigger, but it gets to be internalized by people, and your own parts of life are blocked by agreeing to be inferiorized. So Biko was giving us a gift for our own individual freedoms, for us to be in touch with the greatness that he represented. So I continue with this project. The book is mainly a story, a memoir of my own life, but as seen through the influence of Black consciousness, the influence of Biko, the person, the philosopher, the teacher, the mentor.
Dr. M-Afrika, that's very powerful that you speak about such a big subject, inferiority complex, because that's what the Black consciousness philosophy was trying to expel, how we feel inferior about ourselves. For you, when you look at Steve Biko and his identities, what do you see in him, and what were the questions you were wrestling with as you were exploring this theme of an inferior complex?
I could see somebody who would have just been ordinary had he chosen to be. But he brought upon himself a sense of expansion. He could become bigger. He could reach out and take all the necessary risk on his life, but on behalf of others. I could see somebody of consciousness, one who wanted not only to destroy an order of oppression, but also to build a new order. And he chose to start in the person. He says, please negotiate your freedom mentally. You can only do it by yourself. Please get together when you are to work. So he had a sense of organization. He had a sense of expansion. He had a sense of transcending himself from an ordinary person to somebody who can undertake a change of the world. You would have come across his words when he said, at the end of oppression, at the rendezvous of victory, all of us have a role to play. All of us have space. So this is a man who was not given to jealousy. This was a man who said we all can exist and we have a contribution to make. So this is what really overwhelms me. And he becomes bigger than his family. He becomes bigger than neighborhood. He becomes a human symbol. That good and fortunate, it happened in my own time, very, very close to me. And I took it upon myself that this is a duty that I need to share with others. Remember, he was given a name by his parents, Bantu. Who would have known that he would live up to that name? Not only for his sympathy with people, but also for thinking that he needs to alter our consciousness, alter our minds from being oppressed, but to visualize ourselves as the very agent of our own freedom. And so he went on these projects. This is just theory and this is intellect, but he went on real community projects. And the people that were involved in those projects, and us who were younger, us who came later in his time, should now learn what it is to work for your people, what it is to have people first in your own thinking and in your own doing. I am disappointed by this country for having not learned from Biko, for having not taken up the messages that are encapsulated in his projects, in the Njwaxa Leather Project, which was situated in a village called Njwaxa near Alice, where the workers saw within where they lived that they could create a work for themselves and have dignity. I'm also disappointed that the hospital, the Zanempilo Health Center, that he built in a village that had 3 ambulances that went all around King William's Town and East London areas, that had 4 doctors who came from one university, Dr. Mampila, Dr. Chepi Palweni, Dr. Dubs Msauli, Dr. Siolo Solombel. They were dedicated, working and assisting people, giving them high quality health care.
Yeah.
Before Biko, there's never been black people working amongst black people. We know that Christian missionaries did their own work, and Biko turned history around.
All right, Dr. M-Afrika.
Tried to teach us that we can, yes.
I'm sorry to come in there. We need to take a short break, and I would love us to continue with that train of thought, but also with more of these conversations after the break, touching a little bit on the dialogues we'll be having tonight, titled Touched by Biko, The Unfinished Business of Black Liberation. We'll continue speaking to Dr. Andile M-Afrika after this.
Darubini ya Afrika na I am Henry Shakif.
Dar es Salaam siku ya leo ni ya kijani.
Ya kabisa, Tanzania nzima macho ni hapa, na mkutano wa leo umeshika karibu 90% ya vyombo vyote vya habari viko hapa kusubiri kusikia ni kitu gani hasa ambacho CCM itakisema katika siku ya kwanza ya grand opening ya uzinduzi wa kampeni zake kitaifa.
Rais wa Tanzania Samia Suluhu Hassan ameidhinishwa kutangazwa kuwania kiti cha urais katika uchaguzi utakaofanyika Oktoba 29 mwaka huu na tume ya uchaguzi. Hili unalizungumzia vipi?
Ila kwanza lilitarajiwa, ni jambo liko wazi kwa sababu Rais Samia ndiye aliyepata idhini ya kuteuliwa na Chama cha Mapinduzi kupeperusha bendera ya chama.
Darubini ya Afrika 11 kamili hadi 12 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Step into the heart of the day on the move with Palesa and Benjamin.
Hey, we're speaking about a tall tower of self-reflection in the form of Steve Biko. Today, we are celebrating an unfortunate occurrence that took place in his life, the death at the age of 70. And he was 30, right? Sorry to say that, 30 years old. And I'm just thinking about that. I'm like, wow, he was so young.
So young.
And he had done so much. But
Yeah.
also as a thinker, he had developed such a huge way of thinking about his self-identity and the people around him. Dr. M-Afrika is joining us. That's Dr. Andile M-Afrika, an author, academic, and freedom fighter. Tonight, he will be addressing the Bantu Biko Mutapa Afrocentric dialogues, and it's a reflection on his latest works, touched by Biko, My Battles with Inferiority Complex. Dr. M-Afrika, let's talk a little bit about that. You know, the contradictions that you were saying are things that are sitting in your heart right now and are feeding you with a sense of disappointment. What are the contradictions that you are seeing with Steve Biko's assertion of black consciousness and where we are as a black people?
Sometimes I feel the Biko had a very little time around. Maybe he would have really expanded on some of these concepts had he lived. Somewhere he writes about the need to infuse the spirit of black consciousness in people. I don't think that is very possible. Maybe he said it, maybe he would have reflected again on it. But I think it takes one, not only an infusion, it takes a direct confrontation with those aspects that belittle you, because automatically you may just live. I'm from a township called Ginsberg.
Mm-hmm.
Many of my peers there, they include a professor, like to refer to themselves as Ginsberg boys and Ginsberg girls. And I asked my friends, why are we deriving identity from somebody who is Jewish, who ran a factory, who was a local politician, because history is there. Why would we derive our identity from somebody of a different history and of an opposing history to our? Are we not aligned with our ancestors who were exploited in France Ginsberg factory?
Mm-hmm.
People tend to get fond of their position. So this freedom of the mind, this self-assertion can only begin in the person, can only begin when you question what you see and why you live the way you live. And it can translate into an education. That's why we write books. We have to share these experiences so that the readers can begin to look at themselves. We're writing much more about the history of King Williamstown to give a clue what kind of environment birthed somebody like Biko. So, in other words, there's a need, not only for myself, but for other thinkers as well. There's a need to continue with the thinking that was started by Biko and his generation. People say we are 48 years away from his death. I say we are 2 years nearer to a bigger monument, the 50th anniversary of his death. What are we going to bring in the next 2 years? What shall we say to the spirit of Biko? What have you been doing since he died? Especially from the instructions or the examples that he left us, the legacy of expansion, the legacy of transcending, the legacy of vision, that we should be able to know where we are headed.
Let's talk a little bit about what's the latest development. Yesterday, South Africa's National Prosecuting Authority, or NPA, was stating that it's going to reopen the inquest into Steve Biko's death in 1977. What do you make of that?
I think it's a welcoming, it's a move that should be welcomed. I picture myself as part of the family that they should be needing that closure. In my investigations, I was lucky to speak to Biko's elder brother when he was alive, Kaya Biko. And he recalls a day when a security branch squad came down to King Williamstown. They were coming to arrest Peter Jones, a colleague of Biko. So they were on the fence, at the gate, and Biko was talking to them that they are not going to find Peter Jones. He's not available for them. And this one Captain Hussein, he said it in his rude Afrikaans, that once I get you in my hands, I'm not like King Williamstown branch, security branch, but once I get you in my hands, you'll blah, blah, blah. It's something that I cannot say on TV.
Mm.
And it happened that it became that very squad in Port Elizabeth that did what it did on him in that building, Sanlam building. So when there's an attempt to open the case and perhaps reveal certain things that have not been revealed, that should be welcomed. But I must also say that some of us are political associates of Biko. And we should be warned not to internalize Biko's death, because Biko did not live to die, but he lived to teach us. There are so many things to learn from the life that he gave us than from death. Although I don't want to underscore the significance, because it was not an ordinary death. Ngugi wa Thiong'o, in his book, The River Between, it's a novel, says the character that he writes about, which is the main protagonist, dies early in the book. And two writers from Uganda are asking, does this mean the failure of that character? And Ngugi answers, no, it is sometimes the method of death that you are interested in, the impact it does on others. And Biko himself had said so. Was he prophesying that he would die that way? That many of us will be glued upon him, will be politicized by the method of his own death? We don't know. But I think he was a prophet. Things may have happened even outside his own psychology or want.
All right.
But this is, as I say briefly, this is a step that is welcome. And we hope that the NPA this time around will do a good job.
Well, unfortunately, we do need to wrap up this conversation as we run out of time. It is something to look forward to, the dialogues that we will be in conversation with today, the unfinished business of Black liberation. There's a lot going on. We just recently saw, what was taking place in Nepal with the Gen Z protests. I see that spreading wildfire across social media with the youth all across the world saying, hey, what are we doing for our own liberation here in our own countries? I've seen also a little bit of talk on social media for the South African youth saying they want to protest on the 24th of September. That's spreading a little bit on social media. So we're not sure if, Black liberation continues with the youth of today, or there's still unfinished business as is set to be spoken of in the dialogues today. Where can we go and find out more, and how can we join the dialogues that you'll be engaging in tonight?
I must first talk about the choice of the theme that Mutapa has come up with, the unfinished business. When this was brought to me, I said, oh, wow, how could these guys think this way?
Yeah. Unfortunately, you need to be quite brief with this one because we have run out of time, Doctor.
Okay. The details of we are on social media, I'm told.
Yes.
On the Mutapa page, as from 6 in the evening. It's an intergenerational discussion and dialogue.
Well,
we hope the details, the organizers will supply the details how to join.
Yeah. Well, those will be at the Lit Culture Books, the on 29 Chiswick Street here in Johannesburg. Breeze Block is the name of the venue, and the dialogues will be titled Touched by Biko, the Unfinished Business of Black Liberation. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. M-Afrika.
Thank you, Palesa. Thank you, Benji.
That is Dr. Andile M-Afrika, author, writer, and, Black consciousness, liberator, who really is going to be part of these in-depth discussions today. It's 10:31 Central Africa time. We do, unfortunately, need to keep it moving. Musibudi Makura is standing by with our latest sports.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.